Welcome back. So if you want my code as is right now, go and take out tag 19. Now right now this is actually a very synchronous call we're making here, but on the web we normally do asynchronous calls. So we ask for something and then we get a response later. So let's try and convert our login into a promise, meaning you ask me for something and I promise you to return a reply when I'm done doing whatever I'm doing. Now right now it's very easy to do because our login is actually just a user we're returning, and right now it's locally all of it. It's hard-coded, so it won't be a promise. A promise won't be required. But you will when we start working with a real web service later. So we're going to try and wrap this inside a promise. Now the way we do this is actually just by adding the promise here, like this, and then adding the bigger than, lower than case here, and then we're actually returning a promise. Now that's the first part of it. The second part is actually to say that we want to use promises, so we'll say promise.resolve to actually explain we want this guy to be packed inside a promise. That's all I had to do. Now I'm using promises. Ta-ta! So this means that, of course, we are returning a promise now saying that when this is done, whatever we need to do right now is very simple. We're not doing anything that's over the wire or anything. So, but we'll say as soon as we're done, then we'll tell you that we're done, right? Using the then statement. So we need to go back to our component.ts file, because right now the login will actually return a promise here, not the actual logged in user. Notice you're not getting a mistake here, you're not getting an error, but it actually is a promise, this guy right now, and not an actual logged in user. Okay, we can figure that out if I go in here and I say user instead of let here, like this, just to show you that would actually be wrong. It's not a user, it's actually a promise here right now, instead of a user. I'm just trying to show you here what we actually get returned, okay? Let's put it back to that. So how do we actually use the promise we get back and convert it into an actual user again? Well, we say that when we do the login, then we actually want this promise in here, and there we're going to use the fat arrow notation again, or the fat arrow function, by saying we are going to return a function that contains a user. Let's just call it logged in user, or luser for logged in user. And then we're going to use the fat arrow notation here to say we're getting back a user from the promise, and we want to take that user that we're getting back and we want to add him to the user here. So now we would actually add this guy up here, right? But we don't need that anymore, so let's remove this user actually also and move this if statement inside the promise. So we don't need the if statement until the promise is done. So now we're saying when we do login, then wait for an actual user to be returned to us from our login service, and then if the user is blah blah blah, the same as before. Let's see if this works, and then I'll run over the code one more time just to explain it to you. By the way, if you want to look at this is from the Heroes application that we built inside the tutorial setup on Angular's.io. They actually explain in HTTP under the tutorial how you use promises. So there's a lot of documentation about how to use this and what it's all about. But can we still use this? Is it still working? Let's just do lbuilder and 1, 2, 3, do a login, and there we go. It still works like it did before. But now it's not working like before, because now we are actually saying when you call login on the user service or the auth service, the auth service is going to say, I'm not going to give you anything until I'm done completing whatever I need to do. Then I'm going to resolve the accepted answer, and then you can actually, with the then function, go and get the response, and again, the fat arrow function, use the response. So we added an extra layer here. So that's all I had to do to actually use promises and create my own promises.